passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in! Touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond.
A swing and a drive! To deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jarid Watson.
And we are live on Facebook and Twitter. Hello and welcome, Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jarid Watson, and this podcast is brought to you by Waiting for Next Year, original Cleveland sports reporting at waitingfornextyear.com. Well, it's that time of year again. This is our second annual Cleveland Browns Year in Review. It's a three-part series. Take a look back at the season. Oh boy, it's going to be a lot of fucking fun, I can tell you right now. I don't know why we do this to ourselves, but here we go.
It's important to review the season.
Yes, let's review it. Let's review. It's a pile of shit. It looks like shit. Yeah, that's a pile. Yep, sure, that's a pile of shit. So we're going to do that for not one episode, but for 3 episodes. We're going to review the 2019 season. I can't even, this is what we're doing, Andy. We're going to review. This is really what we're going to do. We're going to review the 2019 Cleveland Browns season.
Cleveland Browns.
Someone to put this together. It's just as much doing it live as it is putting it together. We're going to go through some famous moments, a la the Seth Wickersham article.
Yes.
We're going to lead off with the famous "If you don't wear brown and orange, you don't matter" comment by our own Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah.
Who's no
T-shirt
longer...
machine.
That's right. We're going to go through our favorite draft picks in the 2014 draft. We're going to relive the most important day in our lives, the OBJ signing, and what that meant, and all the fun quotes that went back and forth. And then we're going to get back to a date that I have hit, that I've done research on. I think it actually played a big key in the season. Tuesday, June 4th. I'm sure some of you are like, what the fuck is that guy talking about? In that 48-hour period, 4 or 5 events really transpired, really showed what was ahead for the Browns.
Mm.
And I don't think, and I remember I was talking to Jarid on the way home in June. And I told him, I am exhausted from the Browns, and it's only June 6th. And I remember we were laughing because June 4th and June 5th, so many things happened. Duke Johnson and Baker Mayfield getting on and off trains, and OBJ didn't want to go to any of the camps, and he went to the mandatory camp, and it all made all sorts of buzz, and everybody in the locker room was pissed at Mayfield because what he said about Duke Johnson, and Monken hates Kitchens, and all this stuff. We're going to relive it all. Funny enough, when we did this last year, we got into the season. We don't get into the season in part 1 because so much happened.
Couldn't even get into the season.
Doesn't not even get into the season. But let's start off on Monday, January 14th. Freddie Kitchens' press conference starts it all off. Freddie Kitchens is it's amazing. He announces the head coach, and he also announces the staff. As we sip some alcohol, there you home on Facebook and Twitter, let's go through some of our fun quotes. Remember John Dorsey? Remember him? Let me start off by saying...
In Dorsey we trust, yes.
And by the way, I still like Dorsey a lot.
Of course.
So that's tongue-in-cheek humor. But here's a couple quotes just to get our brains reliving and started. John Dorsey in the day is saying, quote, "Let me start off by saying that as this organization, we could not be more pleased with how this research process unfolded. I've said before that we are going to set out to be deliberate and thorough. I think we were really organized and efficient on how we went about this. Yeah. That is how we got here today. Of course, intelligence, but a really good football acumen as well. I think we're able to identify some high quality candidates that possesses these characteristics that we're looking for. But at the end of the process, unanimously, I think you might want that word back. But he said here unanimously.
Unanimously. They were all on the same page, Andy. Andy, they were a unified. Yeah, probably unified front. Unified front.
We all felt that head coach Freddie Kitchens was the right fit for this organization moving forward. And then Kitchens said a whole bunch of stuff, but I think this little paragraph really states it all. Every decision we make as an organization, and John would agree with this. I'm sure he would. I love Freddie, how he talks. I miss Freddie already. Every decision will be based on one thing and one thing only. That is winning football games. Let's not fool ourselves. This game is about winning. Everything that we do in the organization from a football side of things moving forward, with the organization moving forward, blah, 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 blah. Then the famous quote at the end. If you do not wear brown and orange, you don't matter.
I was so fired up. I was in a mall parking lot in Glen Burnie, Maryland, listening to the stream of the announcement of Freddie Kitchens as head coach of the Cleveland Browns and him coming to the podium. And I'm streaming it on my phone, and I'm all smiling and excited. And Priscilla's looking at me. My wife's looking at me laughing. But she gets it. She knows. She gets it. She knows how I live this life. She knows that I walk around with a cell phone in my hand, blaring the stream. In moments like that, it doesn't matter where I am. Oh, we're going shopping? Yeah. I don't give a shit. We got this on. Yeah. Oh, I'm walking through a JCPenney? Okay, that's great. Everyone in JCPenney in Glen Burnie, Maryland, in this mall knows Freddie Kitchens is the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. All right, look out, Ravens. Look out, Ravens fans. Here we come. I did that, Andy.
Unanimously.
I'll
steal a word from Dorsey. Unanimously, those fans, we were very excited about this hire. We were also very excited about Todd Monken. Remember his air raid offense?
Air raid. Oh boy, look out with Odell and Jarvis. And can you wait until Hollywood Higgins gets in? Oh,
hey.
Oh!
If you love screen passes and bubble screens and whatever the fuck you want to call them, 10 yards behind line of scrimmage and pitch plays and big spots that don't make sense, air raid is what you want. That was also announced on Monday on the 14th, and along with Steve Wilkes being introduced. Prefer, who's still here, by the way, out of all these men, Prefer is the only one still here. But the big topic too was the air raid offense. Everybody's excited about the air raid. Everybody was just jumping up for joy. And then when Wilkes got to the microphone, which I think was a few days later, we have to laugh a little bit. He was very excited about Jabril Peppers. That was his big thing. He was ready to get him into spots to make big plays. And it just shows, even 4 or 5 days in, what they're talking about are things that we will never even come close to seeing. Because Wilkes' big thing in the press conference was, quote, when you add Peppers along with Randall, I really love that combination. And the range that we have in the back end, making plays on the ball with Peppers, I think he gives you an element of a guy who can play closer to the core. End quote. And he said a bunch of other things after that. They're very nice. It's amazing how Peppers never even touched the field. So, this was a big week. We were all excited. I think this culminated too with very shortly after Mayfield was at the Cleveland Sports Awards. He gets the award for Cleveland Sports Professional of the Year, which, we all know in the grand scheme of things. What does that mean? I don't know. But the bigger story out of that week was he did not win the Rookie of the Year from AP or the NFL vote, which I still don't think that's right. I still think Baker Mayfield should have won over Saquon Barkley. Barkley, by the way, did not have a good sophomore year either. But so Baker talked about that, and the hype machine was starting. That's why this episode's called the hype machine, because we love Freddie. We were excited about Monken and the air raid offense. Wilkes was going to use Jabril Peppers. We're all getting excited, and then right around the Super Bowl, we saw Baker with the NFL 100 commercial, and that got us excited.
Oh yeah,
and that commercial really.
It's the Andy. Did you see that? Tom Brady passing the torch.
We're going to Super Bowl.
This is it. We already won the Super Bowl. We won it. Just hand it over. Hand the Lombardi trophy over right now. Hand it over. Hand it over.
We were, as Browns fans, and by the way, it was just starting, but we were getting excited. When you see a commercial and the Patriots are playing against the Rams in the game, and you see it's your quarterback is the guy who's highlighted along with, climbing the hype machine.
Andy, I'm going to steal this from the latest Pete Davidson stand-up on Netflix now, except he's talking about tripping on mushrooms. I'm talking about, I might as well have been tripping on mushrooms, Browns fans, that it's like going up the hill on a roller coaster for 5 hours.
Yes.
And just that. And that's what it was. It was months of that.
Constant.
It was just months. Of just going up in anticipation for the top of that hill and the rush you were going to get.
To be fair, and I know we're being silly, but to bring it back down to earth. In fairness, though,
fired up.
We were really fired up.
Yes.
This is pre anything else. After that commercial, you could tell Baker's fired up. He's getting excited. He did say a couple quotes though that should have teed us up that I should have put in here by 10. In a couple quotes where I just hope Monken remembers we got to run the ball. I mean, as we all remember Mayfield saying, we got Nick Chubb in the backfield. So even Mayfield, like, just giving a little jab here.
None of them. It doesn't matter. Don't worry. They'll figure it out, Andy. They'll figure it out.
And for everything that we know now, in fairness,
They're gonna figure
listening
it out.
to Freddie is like you do want to run a wall for him, run through a wall for him. God, I can't talk. You want to play for him because if you don't wear brown and orange, you don't matter. I mean, God, that's kind of great to hear.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of
You don't wear it. You don't wear brown and orange.
It don't fucking matter. It's great.
Don't matter. You don't matter.
Higgins during Super Bowl week also, I want to be in Cleveland. He told a Super Bowl show during Radio Row, no other team. You tell Dorsey, you tell Alonso to get it done, end quote. And of course, Higgins did come back for the Browns. But I mean, the hype when she was getting there, it was going well. But as the Super Bowl week was coming, as all these things were firing up, we got a shoehorn. We had a little bit of a detour. Yeah. Before the Super Bowl and before the NFL commercial, we're getting our heads ahead of ourselves, but this was our first flag of things to come, maybe. The Wickersham article came out on Thursday, January 24th.
Which, if fans of the show will recall, we spoke with Mr. Wickersham about this article. We went into it, so go back through the catalog of episodes if you want to find it. It came out and it made, but I will say it was a detour, but it was like it was. You see, we knew it. This doesn't surprise me. It's all messed up, but I think they got it all figured out now, right?
It felt like a history lesson. Oh, of course. We heard about Hugh's firing.
Yes.
Dorsey and Hugh, the famous moment where Dorsey goes in, hey, the team quit on you. And Jackson goes, get the fuck out of my office.
Yeah.
And,
the irony of Hugh calling it his office.
It wasn't for much more than a couple more minutes after that. And that's where, too, we started really getting into this whole machine of, people saying things about Haslam. You think, quote, this is from someone, this is a former high-level manager. This is all in the article. You think you're the one he trusts. By the time you realize that he confides in everyone, it's too late. You're gone, which is an interesting quote, something to remember.
Yeah.
I think there's some other moments.
Some of this from Seth, Andy. This was what put, for me at least, it solidified what I had assumed about Jimmy, and it was. I will say that this is the nugget of worry that was in the back of my mind. That if any of this falls apart, it's because of him, and that's where it started. And I am probably going to be on that train until the day he sells the team or someone else takes over. That's just where I'm at. So thank you, Seth. Thank you, Seth, for that article, for telling us what we already knew, but for also reminding me that at the end of the day, it's Jimmy's doing.
And he definitely made that a point in his article.
Yes.
There's no question about it. That was a big, big focal point throughout. There was also talks about Bridgewater and Manziel and that whole Hoyer mess that came up. Basically at the end of the day, Manziel, of course, became our quarterback, and we won't relive that. Go back in the article and relive it. But I think the key thing from this article that is relevant for 2020 here in March 1st is the analytical moments. And it's good to remember. The Browns guardrails, and this is something that he brought up, and I think it's interesting. Something that, everybody who was in the Deep Podesta camp said, the Browns had to stick together. This is like a roller coaster. The analytics contingent would tell this to Haslam. He could not get off in the middle of the ride. And something that, that we discuss, but we should relive. Deep Podesta, it was really mentioned in this article and hammered home that he wrote an email to Haslam saying, hey, you cannot hire Hugh Jackson. You can't. This does not fit in what we're trying to do and going along this process of analytics. And they really wanted to hire Sean McDermott. By the way, he's doing a wonderful job in Buffalo. Boy, we'd like to have Sean McDermott now. Boy, that'd be a good hire. Anyways, though, going back to this, that gives you hope about Stefanski. This is my whole point here. It does, when you read this again, it gives you hope about Stefanski. Because the big thing is here, there's always, Haslam flew to Cincinnati, hired Jackson. He did tell Deep Podesta he heard him, but he was going in his own direction, end quote. So, for people who go, why would I read this again? I don't blame you. I wouldn't read this again. But here's the one nugget of positivity to take out for today. DePodesta really hammered home the point saying you got to have all analytics all in. You got to go in on this and all that. And by the way, I still don't think it may not work, but whatever. That's DePodesta's thing. To DePodesta's whatever. This is all hypothetical. His call about Sean McDermott compared to Hugh Jackson was right on the button.
I think anyone's
Was right on the
call
button.
about anyone other than Hugh Jackson would have been the right call.
All right, a quick poll vote between you and I. If you go, hey, we're on a stranded island, and you have Freddie and you got Hugh, who do you pick as your coach?
Oh, I pick Freddie. Freddie
I would pick
will
Freddie.
learn. Freddie will figure it out.
I would pick Freddie too. Isn't that amazing?
Didn't Freddie just? By the way, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead in here, but Freddie just made comments too regarding Baker was the one changing plays at the line of scrimmage when he wasn't supposed to. Did you hear that? Did you see that? You didn't see it? Did you hear it? No? Yeah.
There was jabbing
look
back
that
and
up.
forth. There was jabbing back and forth all towards the end of the year between Baker and Freddie about that stuff, and that's typical fallout. I don't want to hear it.
I know.
I don't want to hear it.
I know.
And by the way, Six has got a lot of pressure on him to win, but that's for a different podcast. So, we go through the month of February where we're still feeling good. Again, the Wickersham article happens, and the whole hype between not getting Rookie of the Year, Cleveland Sports Awards, Air Raid Offense, Monken, all that leads up to all that happens. And then very, very quickly, on Tuesday, February 10th, Kareem Hunt signs with the Browns. And now you add something here that has a whole bunch of dynamics, right? On the field, Kareem Hunt can play. We all saw it last year. Kareem Hunt is a winner on the field. That guy plays for big plays. He plays for big yards. He leaves his heart on the field. There's no question about it. There's everything you love about a player you love in Kareem Hunt. However, Kareem Hunt's contact off the field has been very bad at times. And it's been very poor. And he's made some very poor decisions. And you can tell from even everything we've learned about him that you want to root for Kareem, but at the same time, you can't defend what Kareem's been doing. The time of the signing, if people heard this podcast, I'll relive it one more time. I did not agree with the signing. I did not want Kareem Hunt on the Browns. I just did not want a player who had that moment in the 9 on the Browns. I just don't agree with that stuff. I think you got to be hard, cut, and cold. All that to be said, I will say this again. I've enjoyed Kareem on the team. I still am in this position. There seems to be a very foggy, murky thing about what's going to happen with Kareem. I know there's going to be a tender, but it's not exactly know what tender is coming out. All that to be said, I've enjoyed Kareem. I still don't think I'd bring him back in 2020, even with his talents.
Well, I think they might. I think they're going to, and I think
That's a different question.
Andy, here's the other
that's
thing. And forgive me for not being, and I don't know whether you know this either, but we know that right now the NFLPA, and the working that they're doing right now on the new deal and all that stuff. The thing that you hear about is the complaints on what announcers are making, but isn't there something in there where they're not going to worry about weed anymore, where they're going to actually take that off?
They are debating. That's going to be one of the big talking points.
It needs to come on, and I think I think that'll be a big play into whether Kareem gets suspended or not going into this season. I think that might be have a part of that going on. So
all that to be said, the weed thing's not what bothers me. What bothers me is what happened with the police officer.
Bother anyone.
And what happened with me is what happened in that whole incident there around it. Not the weed. What happened is there's it just, you could tell he wasn't telling the truth at first. You could tell you could just tell all that stuff happened and came out.
That's the problem. The problem is he's a scared little kid, Andy, and we really need some adults. Need some adults.
Again, I'm not saying it's 100% Kareem Hunt's a bad guy, but what happened that night in the 9 hotel a year and a half ago is bad.
Right? No, it's bad,
really,
and
really bad.
Pardon me, Andy.
No worries.
Tried not to cough into the microphone. I muted it and came out of it still coughing. It still says a lot about the Browns organization right now, in my mind, if they're talking about tendering Kareem Hunt, keeping Kareem Hunt, and not signing Joe Schobert and letting him walk.
Yeah, we're
right.
into that thing.
That's the comparison that we always go to, and it's the glaring issue regarding not just the Browns, but the NFL in general when it comes to moves
Well,
like this.
and building a team, and Hollywood Higgins too can go in there too. So Hollywood's done nothing off the field, and he's not going to earn a chance to do
Right,
it.
and it's been really
murky.
murky with what that whole issue was with him. Correct.
Murky.
Yeah.
So Kareem Hunt signs on the 11th. Interesting enough, for being fair, that was pretty much the beginning and end. I mean, there's some comments which we'll get into from Hunt later on, but really that was the beginning and end of the story. But what came out of that was the beginning of the end of the relationship between Duke Johnson and the Browns. Because Dorsey did a press conference and said this very famous quote, which I love Dorsey, but this was a bad quote. I said this at the time, and this was a bad quote. I think Duke Johnson's a good football player, end quote. Quote, what it does is you have three very quality, really four quality individuals. You have three veterans in there now. I don't think it makes them expendable yet. You have to go back and research and see moving forward what's best for organization, end quote. That line, I don't think it makes him expendable yet, was a very poor line. It was not well said and well timed. And I don't blame Duke for being mad about that.
It was so. It sounded so shocking to me that I remember where I was when I heard it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember because as soon as I heard it, I think I called you right afterwards and said, "What the hell is he saying?" Those words, those specific words that not everyone honed in on at that moment. But I knew it. I knew it as soon as I heard it. This is not going to end well for Duke. I thought it was terrible how John Dorsey had voiced that. And sure enough, it turned into a shit show.
It became a big part of the story. You and I both hammered it home. You cannot say that. I don't know why John said that. For all the moves he did well, this is one of them. This was not a good moment for John. And it's not about, interesting enough, the main headline, Kareem Hunt signing with the Browns. It's about this thing with Duke Johnson.com.
Right.
Set a bad tone with Duke, and really, you could just feel it from that moment on. Duke Johnson and the Browns were never going to be quite.
Dorsey could have called him a three-headed beast or something, you know? He could have made it like, you know, there was other ways. Like, why would he have said what he said?
It's unbelievable. As we felt, but to be fair, now going back to this overall hype machine theme, when you think about Kareem Hunt, you're like, oh my gosh, the weaponry for the Browns is picking up even more, and we got this great offensive mind in Freddie Kitchens, and we got the air raid offense. Oh my gosh! And then in mid-February, a lot of things happen, but not to the Browns. Antonio Brown goes on that social media tirade. He leaves Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's
shortly
a mess.
thereafter, the Steelers announced they're not going to re-sign Bell, so he's an unrestricted free agent. So Pittsburgh is under a very big cloud of mysteriousness in mid-February. And then you double down with Joe Flacco being traded, going to Denver. You know, you and I talked about it at the time. With everything that was going on with the Browns and this hype machine, and seeing what was going on in Pittsburgh, no Bell, no Antonio Brown, Joe Flacco leaving the division, being left with Lamar Jackson. I mean, look, we'll go back there down the road. By the time in mid-February, late February, the division was starting to get really paved out mentally.
It looked like it was the Browns to lose.
Because we all knew Cincinnati stunk, and that stayed to be true. And none of us had faith in Lamar Jackson doing big things. And the Steelers were falling apart. The division was being paved in February. We're not even into March, and we're paving the division road. The hype machine was really ramping up.
What are we gonna do in the bye week, Andy? What are we gonna do during the playoff bye week? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do when we got that first week? What are we gonna do with that first round bye week? What are we gonna do?
Well, before that even happens, on March 8th, the Browns and Giants announced a trade, and then Tuesday, March 12th, all hell exploded. OBJ comes to Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny. For everything that happened on the field, the best moment that happened in the Browns in 2019 was this trade.
Yeah. It was
because
it's still
so
a
much
great
positivity.
move.
It was a great trade. The excitement of this fandom, the city, Anybody who was a Browns, who has touched the Browns, was at an all-time high. We were walking on air. The trade that couldn't be pulled off was pulled off. The Browns get Odell Beckham Jr. They get Olivier Vernon, a tight end who could a defensive end who could sack the quarterback for Jabril Peppers, Wilkes, Kevin Zeitler, and 2 picks, a first and a third-round pick. And the Browns had agreed to this pick earlier in the 8th, but they decided to combine this into one. So it was Super Tuesday on March 12th for the Browns. Super Tuesday. And the whole world reacted. All the world. It was not a football game to be played for many weeks, but yet everybody was tuned in to Cleveland.
There was
Ohio on
there
March
was
12th.
so much hype on that Comcast is throttling your internet speed right now, Andy.
Good. Good.
You are in and out. It was such a huge move that it's shaking the internet at this moment.
Well, I can do that. I have a lot of energy here.
Andy, the Browns had the best front four in football. That right at that moment. Not only did they have Odell Beckham Jr., but you were gonna have pass rushers on the edge on both sides that were going to completely dominate. They were going to annihilate. It didn't matter who it was.
Let's get to Beckham.
So I finally stopped worrying about the linebackers because I thought they had the front four and the secondary would be good. So I was okay with the linebackers. Okay, I got it. Yeah, we're good.
I'm glad you're starting off with this because I want to talk about this trade again. Forget Beckham for a second. We know what that. We'll get to that last. Can't believe I'm putting him in the second page, but I am. Olivier Vernon, this trade made a lot of sense.
It did.
Olivier Vernon was going to come in and bring sacks. He was going to take pressure off Myles Garrett on the other end.
The defense needed it so much.
Oh my gosh, he's a proven player. And by the way, amongst this trade, for people to forget, Sheldon Richardson was announced. He was also coming to Cleveland. By the way, who was a good player. Played really well last year for the Browns. So you have Vernon, and you got Richardson, Ogunjobi, and Garrett. And Jared said it, and Jared's right. We all thought for a few moments throughout we have the fearsome foursome in Bree, Ohio. We're going to break the sack record.
Yes.
In week 1.
Yes. Yes. Who are they going to double?
Look, I just want to say this. I know people have been picking on this trade recently. This was a good trade. I'm ready to go down this road. Beckham was a good trade too. But this was a good trade. To trade a guard and basically, let's say a third-round pick for Vernon, you do that all day long. It just didn't work out.
And it didn't work out!
But it made so much sense. And then you had
Why does it never work out? It never works out, Andy. Why does it never work out?
And by the way...
Why does it never work out?
And by the way, for people who want to remember, Zeitler and Peppers brought nothing to the Giants. Nothing.
Right.
Okay, so that would have
been the only that would have made it the most Browns of Browns.
Oh, if Peppers makes a Pro Bowl,
if they would, yeah.
He's spinning the ball on his head. Peppers had a terrible year. Okay, so we don't have to. Let's not relive. We're
already preparing for Schobert to sign within the division too at this point in time, right now, today. So,
great.
Of course, why not?
Perfect. We'll get to that at the end of the show. But going back to this. This trade made a lot of sense at the time. I still think this is a good trade. I'll be one of the few people to defend this trade. I know everybody hates this trade now. And look, Olivier Vernon is the biggest reason why. It did not work out.
Right. It just was a bust. There was nothing. I think analytics would have been good on this trade.
It made sense. It made so much sense on paper. The other big thing that came out of this was, obviously Beckham was a huge story. Vernon was back pages. We're flipping the pages. So let's go back to Beckham. The big story here was that not only was Beckham coming to Cleveland, he was leaving New York, part 1. But part 2, this little team in San Francisco, the 49ers, they were terrible in 2018. So who gives a fuck? They wanted Beckham? What were they going to do in 19 anyways? They made the Super Bowl, right? But they were dying to get Odell Beckham Jr. The Niners were stunned. Lynch and Gettleman had multiple conversations. And all throughout this, and we'll get to the Fearsome Foursome press conference here in a second, but it was so exciting last year around this time, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, in 2 more weeks, we were living some of the funnest times in 2019. That March was fun. I was being asked to do interviews at NBC. We were doing all sorts of fun things. Every day, Jared and I would be talking about the possibilities, what was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's the first time I can ever remember I didn't give a fuck about the draft. This trade lifted everybody's hope. No matter, and we'll get to the other press conference here in a second, but this trade in that 72-hour period lifted so much hope to the city and to the fan base. Yes.
I think the shirt I'm wearing was like printed and sent out by GV Art like 24 hours later.
We were talking about the LSU combination of Landry and Beckham and what they were going to do and flying around the air. I mean, it was so exciting, so tantalizing. And how exciting was it? D. Haslam at the NFL annual meetings in Phoenix, quote, "Everywhere we've gone, somebody's asked us about it. Visiting stores the other day in Arizona and California, we go into stores and that's what they'd ask us," end quote. Jimmy Haslam, though, had a very good quote that is still playing well here today. "We got a lot better," he said. Quote, but I think you have to realize we're 2 years away from not winning a game, right? End quote. Kind of saying, this is great. I'm excited, but I know we still have a ways to go.
He's saying, even I know we're the Browns.
Yes. Yes.
I've been here long enough now to know how this stuff works.
That quote was so telling. It's almost like he knew. Like, I don't know.
And yet we just rose-colored glasses. Oh, there was no...
But it was a great... nothing was wonderful. That was a great week last year.
I know.
The week of March 12th was a fantastic... I was on cloud 9, 10, 11, 12.
Right. LeBron.
Loved it. Oh, LeBron chimed in. Everybody was coming to Cleveland. Oh, it was such a big week. Oh, such a big week. Loved it. And again, the trade made sense. Not just for Odell, but to get Olivier Vernon for a guard and a safety and 2 draft picks. You do that. Sign me up.
So depressing right now.
Shortly after that trade was announced, it was decided that Perryman would not be signing with the Browns. I don't even remember what he did last year, so that tells you everything you know about Perryman. But, I mean, look, it would have been nice to have Perryman. I don't know. And as I said, also, I forget if it happened. I think it happened right after the trade. The Browns announced the signing of Richardson, which was a huge, huge signing. And he played well last year for the Browns. Again, in typicalness of the Browns, not that they could control this, 72 hours later, on March 15th, Kareem Hunt has announced he's suspended for 8 games. And that was the first time you really heard the Browns go on the offensive about why the signing happened.
We knew this was coming too. We knew that this discussion was coming.
Had to happen. D. Haslam, quote, "He's a really nice young man who obviously made some horrendous mistakes," end quote. "But he's owned them and he wants to be a better person. Listening to John and Freddie, they felt confident that he could contribute to this team and could do this. It's up to Kareem, obviously. He has to prove it. He's a young man who's made a terrible mistake," end quote. And she went on to say about some other things that basically play on the same line. But, it's funny. Usually in a review show, there's not a lot that happens between... Think about this. We think there's a lot that's happened with the Browns. Nothing compares to last year. Nothing. The Browns had so much going on an hour-to-hour basis in off-season. You had to grip and rip. And by the way, it gets more busy as this part 1 goes on. But it just shows you how busy it was for the Browns. And we're only through March 15th. The Browns don't even take a breath. They only do during the basketball tournament. And then once the basketball tournament comes down,
toot, toot.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the hype machine is just gaining steam. And by the way, as we as fans, as we should, we were getting so excited. And then to visually see on April Fool's Day, April 1st.
Again.
Can't make it up.
Signs everywhere.
Signs everywhere. Blinking red. But this
signs everywhere.
But again, this was another big moment. I will speak for me. When I saw the 4 horsemen, the Browns 4 horsemen, Landry, Beckham, Mayfield, and Myles Garrett go up on the dais. I said to myself, like, holy fucking shit. This is our big three. This is the Miami big three in Cleveland. This is our version of that. Look at this fucking shit. We're about ready to tear up this fucking league.
Destroy it.
We're about ready to spin the ball.
Who the hell is going to even come close?
I mean, Jared, it was exciting. And I mean, there was... The amazing thing is, there was so much buzz after March 12th. It somehow regurgitated again on the week of April 1st. I mean, everybody was talking about this press conference. Beckham about the trade. One of the best things that's going to happen in my life was what happened here, end quote. I'm really excited about the opportunity. It's a blessing. And, you know, where's this one? Okay, here we go. Quote, this is Beckham again. I plan on being here. I plan on being there in New York for the next 5 years, trying to bring as many championships as possible. But now I'm here becoming the Browns' new guy and trying to turn the Browns into the new Patriots. Beckham said he also had praise for Mayfield. I would say he's next, but I feel like he's now. He's the Brett Favre who's going to be a Hall of Famer. Baker Mayfield, we don't set goals for ourselves. It really does not matter, end quote. And then Landry was talking about how he was crying. We dreamed about this someday. I mean, Beckham and Landry were so happy. They sat next to each other. They looked so happy on this
Only
day,
the Browns could destroy the hopes and dreams of Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry playing together again. Only the Browns could make that a sad story.
But I don't know how it could. We have the air raid offense. We have such a smart coach. I mean, what could really go wrong in this organization? But again, I want to say this because I was reliving it and reading this. The hype around this press conference carried for days. Everybody was excited. I was excited. I was as big a fool as anyone. I remember saying to someone, again, like I will say it again. I always remember saying to myself, we got the big three. Wait till you see this. Again, the modern day four horsemen. Modern day four horsemen. We're about ready to kick some ass and take some names. I mean, how could you not after that press conference?
I don't know how we're going to do 2 more episodes like this, Andy.
That's going to be great.
I don't know if I have it in me.
But it was a big day. Huge day. And then, shortly after this whole press conference happened, as we all kind of knew, Emmanuel Ogbah, who, again, I will be fair, did not play well in 2018 for the Browns. Did not. Really had a hard time. He gets traded to Kansas City. I forget what they did last year. And then we get Eric Murray and Derek Kendra back.
Kansas City, I believe, has 2 linemen from the Browns starting, if I'm not mistaken.
Cam Irving. Mitchell Schwartz.
Oh, that's 3. Oh, there's
Emmanuel Ogbah.
Oh, jeez.
So that trade did not work out. That trade looked a little suspect. So
my belly's out.
so that all happened. That now I will be fair. That trade did not work out. But here's something that Dorsey said after all this settled down right before the draft. It's hype. That's what it is. Football is played in the fall, the last I've seen. Now you have to go to training camp. You have to earn the respect that everybody's talking about. How do you do that? You have 53 guys with a single mindset and the collectivism of driving this thing forward. That's where it is. Games are won and lost in the fall. That is how we are going to approach this thing. I've always lived by the mantra, 1-0. It is one game at a time, and you have to live that, end quote. I mean, God, I never read that. Again, ready to run through a wall. So excited. I mean, you know what? For everything that went wrong, the greatest thing was, and it's not going to be not the case this year, I didn't give a fuck about the 2019 draft. Now, this year, I will be caring a lot. But that
was the first time in 20 years I didn't care.
Didn't care. And by the way, clearly the Browns didn't either, because we did not have one of our greatest drafts. And again, the draft, I think Aaron made this a point when we interviewed him from Football Outsiders. and he made a great note on this. I think we should make it. It's a crapshoot, right?
No matter what,
Yes,
whether you're using your football mind or your analytics mind,
it's a crapshoot.
it's a crapshoot.
All that to be said, to relive the great Browns draft 2019, it was Grady Williams in the second round, Shion Takitaki in the third, Redwine, remember him? He's in the fourth round, Mac Wilson in the fifth, Austin Seibert in the fifth, and then Drew Forbes. And
Yeah, your fifth rounders are your only guys that produce and are gonna play again this season.
Yep.
I like Mac Wilson.
Mac Wilson's
feeling he's feeling pretty lonely right now though at linebacker.
He made an interesting tweet to Joe Schobert.
That's all right. He also was tweeting about drafting some of his former teammates too. So he's just a social media butterfly, is what Mac Wilson is. That's what I've and nothing bad. He just says a lot.
Okay, real quickly about one thing about the draft. We'll go back to the 2019 Brown season. That kid Lamb out of Oklahoma. They want to draft him at 10. I understand. Kid's nasty. That's all I'm gonna say. That kid from Oklahoma, that wide receiver, he's so good. I forgot how good he was because Oklahoma played so shit against LSU.
Yeah.
But watching him make that catch I was like, holy fucking shit, that kid play. Yeah. Like the Browns want to draft him. It's like, anyways.
I don't know that they're going to draft a wide receiver.
No, they're going to draft tackle. Tackle. We'll get to that. That's a different show. I'm going to say that for different shows. I have a big opinion about that. Greedy Williams is shown Takitaki. It's a big year for those guys. Everybody's excited about Greedy Williams. Greedy Williams had a terrible 2019, but he's a rook. So is Takitaki. He's a rook. Everybody had big plans for Redwine, and then Wilson and Cyber and Forbes and 6-7 round picks you can't pick apart. So that's that. But the bigger story that would really start coming out of this draft that started to get some drumbeat and buzz was the whole Odell Beckham still not coming back to camp.
Yeah.
But Freddie's not worried in April and May. Of course, I'd rather hear him be here. I understand why. Kitchen said, in quote, I talk to Odell every day. He knows what we were doing here offensively every day. We'll be ready to play. Don't worry about that, end quote. You and I talked about at the time. I am still this guy, even though I think now this year he should be in camp. But if he chooses not to be in camp, that is his choice. That is part of the agreement they have made. So he has every right not to be there. But I downplayed this too much. This started to get really a lot of drumbeat at the end of April, starting in May. And I tried to poo-poo it and said everything else. You know what? I poo-pooed it a little too much. I don't think it's as drastic as other people are making it out to be, but I poo-pooed it too much. And I should have taken it more seriously because going into the end of May, Odell still was not in camp. And then by then, Kitchen's frustration had really hit. After staunchly defending the super wide receiver star, Kitchen said, quote, I just want to see him. What did Beckham miss while away in these past 3 weeks? A lot, Kitchen said. The offense. So by the end of this, in this 6-week period, this was the one story that we were talking about. Everybody had opinions about this. There was not a lot of touch of gray. Everybody was polarizing one way or the other. But this played a big story. I think this is a little leaflet to ourselves.
I don't know that 3 weeks would have made a difference.
Not to what they were doing on the field now.
I don't know whether, I will say this. I agree. You're right. There was a little more there. You wish he was there. Got it. Same here.
Yeah.
But at no point this season were he and Baker on the same page. At no point.
Well, that's the biggest thing here.
Do you blame that on him not being there for OTAs, or do you say OTAs didn't even fucking matter clearly because all season they couldn't get on the same page?
Well, that's why I'm saying I was too lax on this.
Yeah.
So he needs to have a presence on the team. He definitely did not have here's one thing that I will say that I took way too lightly that I'm not going to this time. He was way too much out of the circle.
He would probably agree with that, I think, too.
I hope so. Because Freddie's comments basically said that. I think Freddie got really frustrated by the end of May because he didn't know what the hell was going on with him. And for this year with Stefanski, I think it's important. Hey, if he's not going to be there, that's a part of this agreement. You can't change that. But can you please have a presence and a rapport with the team? That's all we ask. think it's important. I think it's really, really important. So, all this comes, and, we're all, the hype machine, though, still really going hot. The schedule came out. We broke that down. We broke down a fake schedule that came out. We were all excited about what was going to happen here in this team. And then something that I wanted to end this part one on. I think this date because I will never forget this. I called you 2 or 3 days after and I said, I am already exhausted. And we are not even in July.
Yeah.
The first day of mandatory training camp was,
weird.
I want to go through all the things that happened. There are 6 major things. I would say 6. 6 in a mandatory mini training camp in June that should have told us what was going to happen. It was, anyways, let's start it off. Well, OBJ was the big story. He finally shows up. And he was the big story. And everybody, look, we won't live too much about it, but it definitely gave some relief. He made some headline Twitter catches, made some great moves, and everybody got excited about OBJ. There's no question that for how much we were stressed out, or for people who were stressed out in late April and May, when you see something visually like that, you're going to relax. I think that's definitely what happened here. Now, that Sally was not the major story, though. It turned pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because Baker Mayfield made some comments about Duke Johnson, which I had forgotten, which I think we should relive today. Quote, you are either on this train or you're not. It is moving. You can get out of the way or you can join us, Mayfield said in direct response to Johnson's public affirmation to be traded. Because Duke Johnson came out and basically said, I wanted to be traded. And then then Duke Johnson had his own self-made press conference. Quote, this is Duke Johnson now. I want to be somewhere I'm wanted. The moment I'm not wanted anymore, I think it's best to find some middle ground and we do what's best for the team. There's no need to keep me here or force me here to be here anymore. I always wanted to be here. I made it very clear, especially after going 1-15 and 0-16 and re-signing here. Ask if anything could be changed, Johnson said, quote, to be honest, nothing.
That's all on Freddie, or I'm sorry, that's all on John Dorsey. Right? I mean, we said it. Now, at the same time, we also said it probably wasn't the smart move for him to act the way he acted. And
this is okay. Four things here. Dorsey lit the wick.
Yep.
And it went quick. And I'm not surprised. That was a bad quote. It was a terrible quote. 2, Freddie did nothing to stomp this out. If you're the head coach, you can stomp this out. It's up to the head coach. He didn't stomp it out. 3, Mayfield poured gasoline with that train comment. I mean, that is a comment among comments. And I still feel this way. I understand Duke's emotions. I understand how he felt. I don't think that was the right move to do a self-impromptu press conference in the middle of a mandatory training camp.
Correct.
I just don't think that's the right thing to do. And
but that just, again, all of this goes to show you that there was no conductor leading any of this. And we said it throughout the season. Who's the leader? Where's the leadership? Where's the leadership coming from? Because everything was a mess 24/7, Andy.
I mean,
there was no leadership. There were differing opinions. There were different words. There were different people saying different things through the entire season.
I have to be honest. I had forgotten how busy Tuesday the 4th and Wednesday the 5th was.
Yeah.
Because when I remember, again, I remember talking to you. I remember living with others. It was an exhaust. This is just mini camp in fucking June. We were all shot. Tired. You know why? There's a lot of shit's going on. There's way too much going on. And Jared's right. Who's conducting this? Who's pulling Duke aside? And Duke, and again, like, to see this all happen in a short amount of time, I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot. And then, which is typical, which you knew was going to happen, then the comments, Mike Silver leading the train saying, vets aren't happy in Mayfield about his comments. Jarvis Landry followed up saying it's a non-issue, blown out of proportion. Mike Irvin on the fan saying This is Michael Irvin, the former Cowboy Now announcer, TV personality, with some strong opinions saying if Duke had a problem, he shouldn't have come to camp.
Yeah, I forgot about that one too.
Luther Campbell coming in, all this stuff. And by the way, Mike's right on that comment. All this to be said. Again, think about this. The big story should have been Odell Beckham's finally here. We can celebrate him, watching him in highlights. That became back page by the end of day Tuesday on the 4th. The whole 48-hour period became about Duke Johnson and Baker Mayfield fighting things and then having to come apologize and doing things later.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
This didn't happen in July. This didn't happen in the middle of the season. This happened on June 4th and 5th. We should have fucking known. I'm going to circle this day. This is the day we all should have known. If this can't be handled in a fucking June camp, what's ahead? Because everybody, fans, players, I bet you everybody, we all felt exhausted. I remember I told Jared, I'm like, I need a Browns break. I am ready for a Browns break. I need
one now.
I need one now too.
I need one now.
I mean, it's just so that was a huge date. This whole thing, this hype machine, everything that started off with Freddie Kitchens, you don't wear brown, you don't matter. All the way through Super Bowl 100 commercials with Baker Mayfield. All the way through getting Kareem Hunt. All the way, and thinking of the excitement he can do on the field. All the way through Odell Beckham Jr., the big trade with the Giants. Everything pushing forward. The 4 horsemen in Cleveland. And when it finally came to doing something a little bit on the field practice-wise, the whole week went haywire. I mean, had a really rough time. And then, towards the end of the week, Mike Silver comes back again and says, hey, I'm hearing that Monken and Kitchens are not even on the same page.
Which was clearly true.
So, think about this. I'll read it off again. This is all started on June 4th, Tuesday. OBJ first shows up. Baker Mayfield lets Duke Johnson know he's better get on the train. Then Duke Johnson has his own press conference. Then Duke wants to get traded at the same time. The Duke feud is now at an all-time high. Locker room has to be split at that time. And then there's players telling Baker, hey, you got to calm down. You got to get this thing settled down. And then all around this, Monken and Freddie Kitchens may not like each other. And then we got a break for 6 weeks. Telling. That date is very, very, very telling. And that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, where we'll start up part 1.
Gosh.
We're
not even to the season.
Not even. I remember when I was doing this, I said I would really love to try to get to the first game, but I don't think we'll be able to do it.
No, don't worry. We'll start out making everyone feel like shit.
I've already started putting together part 2. But part 2, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we will start in late July with the opening of training camp. But for everything that we know what's going to happen, we obviously do. I want to say again, on that Tuesday, March 12th, was an exciting 72 hours in Cleveland. It was exciting 72 hours as a Browns fan. It was very exciting. And that was so, and then again, the 4 horsemen, I'm going to get that t-shirt. The 4 horsemen coming back, doing that day was cool. I know there's a lot of bullshit around it and we had to live it, but there was a lot of excitement. Now, part 2 will be coming up on the 15th, and then we'll do shortly one after that, and then away we go.
Yeah, we're gonna take a little bit of a break in between now and then.
Yes, and then on the 15th we'll do a little bit of brackets and everything else. All right, to on the floor and current day stuff. All right, quickly to the Browns. For people who have missed it, Schobert is now bye-bye. Yep. He is going to be landing in different waters. The Browns are not going to match that contract unless Schobert's price comes way down. He's back in Cleveland, but that is not going to happen. So Schobert will be moving on.
No, I would look for him to be playing for the Bengals or the Steelers by when all is said and done.
We will see. I hope you're wrong. We will see. Big year for Taki. He's going to get a lot of playing time.
Great.
Not lying. He's getting a lot of
Great.
playing time.
Yeah.
And he struggled last year. So
Rashard Higgins then is the other news for the Cleveland
Yes.
Browns. He's going to hit free agency. He's going to go test the waters. I don't know how that's going to work out. I think he ends up somewhere like Jacksonville. That's what I think. I think someone like Jacksonville pays him. So I don't know.
I think the Browns made it pretty clear in their statement, even though it was murky in what they said with their wording, but I thought they actually made it pretty clear as a poker player and reading into it. If the Browns get him for the right price that's accurate for the market, I think they'll retain him. If someone overpays for Rashard, or if he gets market value, they're going to probably say, take care.
Browns, they're going to have a lot to figure out regarding the wide receiver position this coming season. Because what are you looking at? You're looking at Jarvis. You're looking at Odell.
2 LSU guys who are really talented than everybody else. Everybody else. I mean,
which is fine. Right? I mean,
the Browns had to bring in some wide receivers. It's very, very thin after the first 2.
Well, David Njoku will be back. He's a good receiving tight end.
Thank God.
All right.
Well,
All right. I don't. I'm done. I'm done.
I was gonna say, did you want to tickle that?
No, stop. I'm done.
I'm
I'm done right now. We did it. We talked about the no.
Tickle that itch. Okay. God. Oh my God. If he's I mean, we can all. I mean, nice. I'm sure he's such a nice guy.
Well, my thing is,
I'm sure he's a nice guy. Dontrell Hilliard, we're good there too, right?
I don't know. Are we?
I mean, we've seen enough.
I mean, are we?
We can bring someone else in.
I want him to run some more punts back.
Let's see him in a big spot in a Seattle game. Yeah.
We're not there yet. That's part 3.
2. That's
is it part 2? It's the end of part 2. All right, cool.
Damn it! You're giving away everything. Yes, it was the end. It is. By the way, I'll tell you now. That is the end of part 2. Then the bye week happens.
It was just a good guess, is all it was.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
Plays in perfectly what I was going to do as a storytelling. Okay, the Cavs have lost 2 out of 3, but it's hard not to get excited and feel positive about the Cavs because Sexton's had a really good run here in the month of February. I know we're in March, but he had a really good February. By the way, I'm going to take kudos for this. As I said, I think he can play. I think he's a player. I don't think he's a great player, but I think he's a good player. His passing has improved. His passing is way above board. He is making plays, not just with his shot making, but his passing has actually gotten a lot better. It's not to where it needs to be on a consistent basis, but his passing has really improved. I mean, I have been shocked. He made some passes in a Saturday night game against the Pacers that were very good. He's playing really well. Drummond's playing well when he's healthy. Tristan was out there. Cavs are finally going through their bugaboo of injuries, which is really, I think, hurting the team. Dante Exum's nowhere to be found. He's injured again with something that's going on. Nice guy.
Not a surprise. We already know.
Nice guy, but
nobody knows why we even made the move. So
that was a terrible trade.
Whatever.
Boy, would Jordan Clarkson fit well on this team right now. But anyways, all that to be said, the Cavs are doing what they're doing. They are playing better. They're very competitive. They have not played slop teams. The Pelicans are good. They're making a good run with Zion. Zion is playing LeBron tonight. And then, again, they beat a Sixer team that's in the playoffs. They beat the Heat team that's going to the playoffs. They lost to a Pacer team that's going to the playoffs. So the Cavs are playing tough teams and showing up. Here's one thing down the road, though. They play a ton of road games after the brackets start.
Right.
They play a ton of road games, starting with the MAC championship week all the way through the end of the year. So I am happy about the Cavs. I am a big guy looking at schedules sometimes with teams. The Cavs need to win all these games they can right now because they play I want to say out of their last 15 or so games, I think 10 are on the road. And I mean on the road. Phoenix, Utah, Portland. They go on a long West Coast trip. So Cavs need to get all the wins they can. But again, they're playing better. Garland's playing better. But Sexton's really coming to his own. And again, the combination when they're both healthy of Drummond playing early, Tristan playing late, I think it bodes really well for this team. And Bickerstaff's finding some things. And Kevin Porter Jr. is playing well. He is the one guy you kind of wonder where his ceiling is because he is a guy you could see continue to grow. he might take that next leap even above Sexton, to be truthful. So that's exciting to see. And Garland, time will tell. I think that guy deserves a fair shake because he didn't play any basketball the year before, and he's had some moments too. Okay, the Indians real fast.
Cleveland Indians.
Class A's hurt. That stings. That sucks. For people who didn't like the Kluber trade, you can pile on because that is a big injury.
Yeah, it is.
And for this team. And you know, I know Savali's got a small injury, and Carrasco looks like he's going to be okay. I hate to say it, and we'll get into it with Mandy Bell towards the middle of March, but I'm going to say it. The Indians already early have the label of a team that gets injured. And we're already living it with Clevenger out and Clase out and Carrasco banged up and Savali having some nicks and knacks. The only team I see comparison to is the Yankees. Yankees lost Luis Severiano for the year. He's got Tommy John surgery. That's a big injury, too.
Right.
A big injury. And there's a mysterious injury going on with Aaron Judge, which no one talks about because baseball's it's all about the Astros right now. But Aaron Judge injury, I would be concerned if I were a Yankees fan.
Which, by the way, I watched the video floating around of the Astros dugout, and they need to learn to shut their fucking mouths. Andy, they really need to learn to shut their fucking mouths. If a fan wants to shoot some video and ask them if they're going to give the trophy back, and then those players in that dugout want to turn around and mouth off and say, as long as you're still paying money to come and see us, listen, you keep that condescending shit to yourself. You might not like it, but you've earned every bit of this. And the guy who was saying it wasn't even being an asshole. I mean, let's put it this way. He could have went a lot further. He's being an asshole. My point is, he's not sitting there cursing at him. He's not throwing shit at him. He's not telling them they ruined baseball. Shut your mouths. Shut your mouths.
Look, I hate to say it.
They're not going to shut their mouths.
The Astros have earned this, okay?
Yeah.
The Astros have earned this.
Yeah.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
And it's going to be awful.
It's going to get very bad, and it's because Major League Baseball is not doing anything about it. This is on the commissioner, and this is on the league. Point fucking blank.
For the Indians preview show at the very end, we'll save it about the Astros. I think that's an interesting topic
about it.
Now to things going on the field. The Indians.
Bobby Bradley. There's some good news. Still hitting the shit out of the ball.
I was going to talk about him. Bobby Bradley's having a great spring. Reyes,
solid at first base.
Lindor, huge spring.
Yes.
Now, the Indians...
Spring don't mean shit.
Doesn't. But the Indians lineup is flip-flop between last year and this year. And I just trust enough to know where the pitching's at. Karinchak's a star, okay?
Yeah.
He's a star. I know they're hiding him, and I would hide him too. That kid's absolutely fucking gold. And when Clase figures it out and gets his health done, and Clevenger comes back, I think the Indians are going to be just fine. All that to be said, because Jeffrey Rodriguez is there, Plesac is there, Plutko will be there, pitching games.
But this Indians team is going to have some power, and they're going to score some runs, maybe.
If Bobby Brantley and Daniel Johnson's playing in Columbus, it's a great sign. Because it means that the Indians are front-loaded with what they think they have.
Yep.
And those guys can come up at any time and fix problems.
Yep.
So the Indians are really set up well with the bats, which they weren't. Oh, my God. Last year, we're reliving.
Last year, it looked like there were little kids coming up to the plate.
And glue.
Yes.
More off, and yeah.
Every guy went up there looking $160, soaking wet. Every one of them.
Poor Max Moroff.
Oh, it was bad. They were just little guys.
And Luplo really improved, but Luplo at the beginning of the year, too, had that look.
Right.
But Luplo did a 180 by the end of the year. He was really raking the ball when he was, as a right-hander, going up against lefties.
I'm fired up. I can't wait for this season.
There's a lot to be fired up about, but I will say they got to, there's nothing you can do, and they're not doing it on purpose, but it is getting depressing reading all the injury lists on the pitching staff. This Clase being out until maybe June, which I think is probably true, maybe later because he's such a younger guy. And like I said, Clevenger, we already know he's out probably until May. Again, it's not season ending and stuff, but it's like, man, I would love to see that stuff ease up. It'd be great to see Carrasco feeling good, having a good start in spring. It'd be good to hear Savali. Groin's fine. He can pitch. Everything's ready to go. I like to hear those things going along with everything else going on with the Indians.
You're right. That's where we're at. We're worried about injuries, and we're not worried about the bats. But if the Indians can keep it together, they've got the pitching staff. I think that they'll be all right.
So that is the state of everything. Okay, real fast. Buckeyes had a good win in college basketball. Indiana with a tough loss. College basketball this weekend was great. I watched all the Auburn game in Kentucky. Kentucky looked really good. Duke with a heartbreaker against UVA. UVA won the last second shot. Purdue's going to give me agita all the way through because they're going to be riding a bubble. They play Iowa this week. They got to win that game. College basketball is very, very good. There is certainly not one of those got-to-watch teams except for one, and they're in Ohio, and they're getting a lot of hype now. It's Obi and Dayton. Dayton's going to start getting a lot of that flavor. There's always a team that everybody wants to root for, and the Gonzaga was a few years ago, and Butler for sure during their 2 years when they made the final game. Dayton, I get the feeling Jared's going to be that team that's going to get a lot of national momentum as a team everybody wants to see, everybody wants to watch. The Morant of Murray State. Murray State was only a 13 seed, I believe, last year. They're either 12 or 13. I think they were 13. This year, Dayton's going to be a 2 or 3. So they're going to be playing big games and big spots. And again, unless something drastically goes wrong geography in that room, they're going to be playing Cleveland the first 2 rounds. Yeah. So that would be cool to see. And I think that is going to start getting a little bit more hype to get closer as to the season ends, because I watched a lot of people talking, and you can already see it. A lot of people are hyping up Dayton and Obi and want to watch them play. That'll be fun. That'll be fun in March.
Again, everybody, we're going to do part 2 of the Browns 2019 season review. That'll be on the 15th of March, I believe. We're going to knock that out. We're talking more college basketball soon too.
On the 15th, we will do a 2-part show. We will do Browns part 2, and then there'll be Cavs to talk about the latest Indian stuff. Browns going into free agency. Free agency's on the 18th. And then we will do brackets. We'll do the whole bracket show with everything else. It'll be a long show on the 15th. We'll do 2 parts. And then later on that week, the free agency's on the 18th. Jared and I will find a good day to do Browns only stuff. What's the latest going on with the Browns? And probably that time too, we'll do part 3 to round it up, and then do Mandy Bell either on the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, coming back in Indian season.
All right, well, that's it. Part 1 of the season. See, I can't even talk right now. Cleveland Browns 2019 season review knocked out. We're not even into the season. Don't worry, we'll get there. The shit show continues. Dear Lord. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. Oh, by the way, I didn't even see this. Talking about the Browns 2019 season makes me forget everything that I even want to talk about. Shoot us an email, andyandjared@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @CLEandBeyond. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond. We are brought to you by Waiting for Next Year, original Cleveland sports reporting at waitingfornextyear.com. There it is. I remembered. Cool deal. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. Andy and Jared, Cleveland and Beyond. So Munkin and Freddie were on the same page? Weird.
No.
Take care.
Duke's got to get on the train or get off the train, buddy.
On the train, off the train. Whose train? Kareem Hunt's train?
Yet.
Talk later. Bye.